A global standoff, the US-China trade war. The world's two largest economies are locked in a high-stakes trade war. This economic conflict has far-reaching consequences, impacting global trade and creating uncertainty for businesses worldwide. The US-China trade war is a complex issue with a long and contentious history. Understanding the origins, strategies, and potential outcomes of this trade war is crucial for comprehending the current global economic landscape. This essay will delve into the US-China trade war, examining its origins, the strategies employed by both sides, and the challenges they face. We will analyze the impacts on both countries and the global economy, ultimately assessing the long-term implications and potential future scenarios. The opening salvo Trump's tariffs in 2018. In 2018, the Trump administration ignited the trade war by imposing tariffs on hundreds of billions of dollars worth of Chinese goods. The stated objectives were twofold: reduce the significant U.S. trade deficit with China, and address concerns about intellectual property theft. The U.S. government argued that China's trade practices were unfair and detrimental to American businesses and workers. China swiftly retaliated with tariffs of its own, targeting key U.S. exports like soybeans, automobiles, and energy products. The tariffs escalated rapidly, with both sides imposing increasingly higher duties on each other's goods. This tit-for-tat exchange of tariffs marked the beginning of a protracted and damaging trade war. China's counteroffensive, a multi-pronged strategy. China responded to the U.S. tariffs with a multifaceted strategy aimed at mitigating the negative impacts and strengthening its position. One key element was trade diversification. China actively pursued stronger trade relationships with other nations and regions, including Europe, Southeast Asia, and Africa. This approach aimed to reduce China's reliance on the U.S. market. Furthermore, China ramped up its focus on domestic innovation. Government initiatives like Made in China 2025 aimed to bolster domestic industries and reduce dependence on foreign technology, particularly in sectors like robotics, aerospace, and artificial intelligence. The dragon's burden challenges facing China. While China's response to the trade war has been strategic and multifaceted, it has also faced significant challenges. The tariffs, combined with other global economic factors, contributed to a slowdown in China's economic growth. China's GDP growth, once considered a juggernaut, slowed to its lowest rate in decades. The trade war also contributed to a decline in foreign investment in China. Businesses became wary of the uncertain trade environment and the potential for further escalation. This decline in foreign direct investment presented a challenge to China's economic model, which had relied heavily on foreign capital. Section 5. A Pyrrhic Victory, the U.S. Perspective. While the United States aimed to protect its industries and address trade imbalances through tariffs, the measures also had negative consequences for the American economy. One of the most notable impacts was, well, a spike in inflation. The tariffs on Chinese goods raised prices for consumers and businesses, contributing to a rise in the overall cost of living in the U.S. Moreover, the tariffs disrupted established supply chains, creating uncertainty and increasing costs for American businesses. While some companies benefited from reduced competition from Chinese imports, others faced higher input costs and logistical challenges. The tariffs ultimately presented a mixed bag for the U.S. economy. Section 6. A lose-lose scenario, the global impact. The U.S.-China trade war has been widely characterized as a lose-lose situation, harming both countries and the broader global economy. The International Monetary Fund, or IMF, repeatedly downgraded its global growth forecasts, citing the trade war as a significant contributing factor to economic uncertainty. The tariffs disrupted global supply chains, increased business costs, and dampened consumer spending, ultimately hindering global economic growth. The trade war also fueled geopolitical tensions between the U.S. and China, making cooperation on pressing global issues more challenging. The conflict spilled over into other areas such as technology and security, further complicating the relationship between the two superpowers. Section 7. Shifting sands, the global trade landscape. One significant consequence of the U.S.-China trade war has been the acceleration of global supply chain diversification. Businesses, seeking to mitigate risks and reduce reliance on a single source, began exploring alternative manufacturing locations. Countries like Vietnam, India, and Mexico emerged as beneficiaries of this shift. attracting increased foreign investment and manufacturing activity. This diversification of global supply chains has long-term implications for the global economy. While it may reduce reliance on China as the world's factory, it also introduces new complexities and potentially higher costs for businesses. The long-term impact on global trade patterns and economic power dynamics remains to be seen. Section 8. The road ahead, potential for resolution. As of 2025, the US-China trade war remains largely unresolved. While there have been attempts at negotiation, including the Phase 1 trade deal signed in 2020, these agreements have failed to address the fundamental issues driving the conflict. Key points of contention persist, including the significant US trade deficit with China and ongoing concerns about intellectual property theft. The US has implemented policies to restrict Chinese technology companies, citing national security concerns. These actions have further strained relations and complicated the path to a comprehensive trade agreement. The future of the US-China trade relationship remains uncertain, with the potential for both escalation and de-escalation. Section 9. Can China prevail? Long-term implications. The question of whether China can win the trade war is complex. While China has faced significant challenges, it has also demonstrated resilience and adaptability. Its focus on domestic innovation and diversification efforts could position it favorably in the long run. However, the trade war has exposed vulnerabilities in China's economic model, highlighting the need for structural reforms. The US-China trade war is not merely about tariffs but represents a broader geopolitical competition between the two superpowers. The outcome of this rivalry will have profound implications for the global order, shaping the future of trade, technology, and international relations for decades to come.